Welcome to This Week in Venice, Florida. Today we're in the beautiful master plan community of Wellen Park.
Hey, if we haven't met before, I'm Caleb and this is Lanier, and we are part of the This Week in Venice, Florida team here at Sharktooth Realty, and we help people just like you buy, sell, and move to beautiful Venice, Florida or the Sarasota greater area every single day.
And that's why we come out with weekly videos discussing all the latest real estate developments here in the Sarasota and greater region. You want to be the first to learn, make sure you hit that notification bell and subscribe, so every time we come out with a new resource, you are the first to learn. But today we're going to be discussing all the things you need to know to equip yourself to make that buyer's journey successful, and more importantly, is now a good time to buy.
And make sure you stick around to the end, because we're going to discuss some of the tried and true house hacks that might be the perfect way for you to execute a plan so you can get down here to Florida a little bit sooner.
So as we're in the dog days of summer, and like many Americans, you're out on your family vacation like you do every year. Today we're discussing, is it the right time to buy? We're going to break it down into two aspects that are going to ensure that you have a successful buyer's journey. One is going to be that team you put together, and two is the behavioral finances. Stick around and we're going to talk about what that is exactly and how that's a critical factor in making an informed decision on when is a good time to buy. Now, since we're here in Southwest Florida and we absolutely love cars and it's the heart of NASCAR season, let's use a NASCAR analogy to break this down and simplify things. Now, you see in NASCAR, everyone has all the stock components. They're all going around that same oval racetrack, and all of them are subject to the same rules. But what makes the difference between all the racers and the one who finishes first? In the spirit of Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. Well, when it comes to home buying, that is so true. If you're not the best deal, the best approach, and have the best team, you're gonna miss out on that dream home and that opportunity to leverage your investment. Now, just like the NASCAR race, you're going around, it comes down to so many nuances, so many intricacies, the timing, the pit crew, the air in your tire, the driver, that overall team. Now, that's very relevant and very specific to that, but it also plays true in real estate. Having the right realtor, the professional locally in a micro market, is going to be essential in your buyer's journey. Now, also having that realtor who has the conduit of the ecosystem, like the right lender, to make sure they get you across the finish line, or perhaps maybe that inspector that's going to turn over everything with a fine-tooth comb so you make sure there's no surprises later on. You see, that buyer's journey very much like that NASCAR race. You have to have the right team, the right pit crew in place. Now let's talk about something that gets overlooked all the time. It's behavioral finances. I know, crazy word. What does that mean? Essentially, it's very simple. It's the psychology of the buyer. You see, we look at market indicators all the time: the housing market, inventory levels, the job market, the economy, interest rates, all of these financial precursors to make determinations. But a lot of those are nationally conglomerated insights. They're macro markets. They're not micro markets. They don't give you the true details of that local specific market. So, in a nutshell, behavioral financing is your biases, your predispositions. It could be that fear, the person who has more fear of losing than gaining in an investment, and they get paralyzed, stuck in that analysis paralysis. Now, we have ingrained in us, whether we realize it or not, that we have these behavioral cycles that have been ingrained in us since the beginning of time. Now, you ask yourself, why is the summer market, the dog days of summer, August, always slow? Always there's this doom and gloom. Usually between August and October, some of the markets are the most tumultuous and volatile, and you hear people having the same thing, talking about the markets crashing. It's a terrible time to buy, and they start shouting out all of those market indicators that don't tell you the local market reflection. What we're here to tell you is from our perspective, because we're boots on the ground. We're in this unique anomaly that the patterns are a little bit different than what you're used to. Now, how do these buying patterns come about? Well, let's take it back, way back. Let's figure out how we got here to begin with. You see, the summer vacation, that was a cyclical thing that was born out of the core foundation of America. That's the farmers. You see, every July they start aerating their fields, dating back hundreds of years ago. And then in August, they take all that harvest and they cash out. They head to those banks and they take some time off while those fields are aerating and they get ready for that fall harvest. Now, ultimately, that cycle, that tradition has evolved into vacation. In our minds, in July and August, we're taking time off, which affects the markets. It's almost predictable and almost laughable that you can count on the same anomalies every year and the same doom and gloom conversation. Now, what are anomalies? Anomalies are what financial institutions like to refer to as this behavioral pattern, those unexplained phenomenons, the human aspect, the imperfection of what we really truly are. So understanding when is the right time to buy is understanding the psychology. Now here we have a really different cycle. Not only do we have that cyclical cycle of those summer vacationers, but we also have this snowbird cycle. So we get to rinse and repeat these two very predictable patterns every year, which makes it a very viable market. How does that benefit you? Well, this gives you two opportunity windows to get down here and double down. So instead of taking your summer vacation, which many do, which many take their eye off the prize. Why do markets dip in the summer? It's because people aren't sitting there watching their investments on a daily basis like they're programmed to during the financial season. They take not only a mental vacation, they take a financial vacation. But we're here to tell you that you don't have to take that financial vacation anymore. You can come down here to beautiful Venice, Florida, Southwest Florida, to live that never-ending summer. Not only live that vacation lifestyle, but also invest in it. So you're not destined to all of the psychological aspects that really deter people from making the right move. So we're gonna go sit down with Caleb. We're gonna go break down some of that psychology, some of those fundamentals of behavior that we need to break those patterns. And we're gonna talk about some very tried and true house hacks that can help you get down here much sooner than you expect. All right, folks, we made it back to our office. It was a bit hot. It's about 98 degrees. As you can see, I was sweating. Hopefully it wasn't too much of a distraction. Hopefully that information was very critical for you. But here we are back in the office, and it's the time of year we get calls from our clients all the time. Hey, we've been watching the market. We've been timing the bottom. All of those interesting things that everyone seems to mention, but what they don't take into account is the micro market aspect. Now, we sell Southwest Florida, and we can agree that all of the Gulf is absolutely beautiful. But what we could also agree is that not all of real estate along the Southwest borders are exactly equal. Now, what we like to do is we break it down. The region that we really are micro experts on is that Sunv Gulf Coast. Now, the Sunv Coast is an acronym. It stands for Sarasota, Osprey, Nokomis, Venice, and Englewood. Those are those coastal towns that hug the beautiful beaches, those anchor points of value, the value that draws people here, and the reason why people keep moving down here in droves. So we've hacked a couple of things. We've told you about the fundamental aspect, the psychology, those financial behavioral precursors that really determine a lot of value. But we did promise you something. We promised you that we'd give you some tried and true hacks, what's worked for our clients, what continues to work, and what will probably always work.
Yeah, we're going to dive into two. First, we'll start off with some loan options. You know, most people think they need to sell their home up there and before they can move down here. They want to free up that cash. But we have a couple different options that we want to let people know that are available to them, and it's a way that you can kind of bridge the gap. The first one is called just that. That's a bridge loan, where it allows you to essentially take out a second mortgage. It's a second mortgage, so you're going to pay slightly higher interest rates, but it allows you to leverage that equity you have in your primary home so that you can transfer that down to your new home where you will eventually live after you sell that first home. The second option is a great new program that one of our trusted lenders, they just introduced to us, and it allows you to buy that second home and treat it as a first mortgage. So therefore, you're going to pay a much lower rate as if it was your primary home, not that second home. So really going to be great savings. And if you want to know more information about that program, reach out to us, email us, and we'll put you in contact with the right people.
Now, both of those hacks, they're nothing new. We haven't reinvented the wheel, but it's amazing to us how often our savvy consumers, our savvy buyers, don't exercise and utilize all of these tools available. Remember, we deal with out of town buyers predominantly, just like us. We relocated here. We had that dream of living the never-ending summer, and so do our clients. But they're trying to time the market, 2 different markets at once. It feels like an impossible task. That bridge loan, it allows you to share, to be able to buy in one market and selling in the other while leveraging your assets. And of course, that really creative lender that we have, that we work with, they really understand that people are migrating here. So it's going to be your primary home. Why get caught up in the details of where it lays right now? They're really looking forward. They're looking ahead to see where you land. But maybe you're someone like a young home buyer or a retiree, and you're sitting maybe on a lower income or a fixed income, and you're trying to figure out how to penetrate being a homeowner. Well, one of the biggest hacks, and I know as a young person, I shared rent with so many roommates as a young man. I wish that I would have put that thought process into sharing equity. Maybe there's a family friend, maybe there's a family member, someone you trust. Now, it's not just about trust. Make sure you get that on contract, but equity split, equity share amongst young people and retirees has become a very popular option. If you love that person, if there's someone you can see living with or visiting often, why not split that overhead? Another hack that we like, and it's not always the case with new construction, but we are seeing it across Florida. We're certainly starting to see it emerge in this market, is that multifamily unit. Rob Clive, shout out to you, one of the godfathers of multifamily unit investments. There's a reason he keeps doing it, why he keeps investing in it, because it's an exceptional hack. It's a great way to live in a home while next door you're renting it out. Maybe you have a duplex. Maybe you've maximized that, but that's a great way to cover that overhead, live where you want to live, and not worry about that overall expense. Now, there's another anomaly here that, is a great hack if you are buying that second home. What is that?
And that's being a snowbird. Many people that come down here, they only rent for they're only down here for 3 months a year, 9 months a year. That home's just sitting there, and they're paying all those carrying costs. They're paying their mortgage if they have one. Why not rent that home out? You can offset some of those costs. There's tons of great people just like you, qualified renters that want to come down here, whether they're building a home and they want to rent short term while they're building, or they just want to learn about the area. So they want to live here for 3 months. Tour with Lanier and I. We're going to take them around. They can see all the area, but it allows them to live in the neighborhoods. Potentially they're shopping. So the rental market right now is truly strong. So if you're somebody who's a snowbird that's, worried about that home being not lived in for 9 months a year, there are ways to solve that problem, and getting a great qualified renter that will love your home just as much as you do and will take care of it. That's a great option to offset some of those carrying costs.
That's certainly one of the phenomenons down here. We talked about those cyclical events. That snowbird season, you can really ensure that you're getting a premium renter in there, someone who's qualified, oftentimes people who are potential buyers in the near future. And speaking of buyers, a lot of our buyers are investors. They're moving one investment property to the other. So they're exercising those 1031s, those like-minded properties, those investment properties, just to avoid that taxation. But there's one of the most critical steps aside from the bridge loan and all of these other aspects. And what is that? What is that to ensure there's success here?
That is, you should use someone just like us to represent you and guide you through this process. This is what we do every single day. As a matter of fact, just this week, we put 3 homes under contract. So we're in those neighborhoods. We're talking to the builder representatives. We're talking to those construction managers. We are truly entrenched in the local real estate, and we're the best people to absolutely represent you and get you that best deal and make sure that this process is smooth. It goes through because we have great people that we work with that we'll refer you to make sure that this huge transition that you're about ready to make goes through seamlessly.
You see the buyer's journey. It's not one singular act. There's no one size that fits all. It truly is specific and nuanced to your individual journey. Now, often people ask, when is the right time to buy? Certainly, it's when you're ready. You see, these micro markets, these opportunities, they are always there. There's always an ebb and flow. We broke down that Sun V corridor, that Sarasota all the way down to Englewood, and we can tell you, even in these micro markets, Englewood doesn't play the same as Sarasota. Sarasota doesn't act the same way as Venice, so on and so forth. So when you're looking at market indicators and making decisions, remember that's only part of it. That's not a fully informed decision. Those indicators are national conglomerates. You also have to take in account that behavioral finances, that psychology, the reason why people take vacation, the reason why people escape from their daily finances. But down here, we have an interesting phenomenon where people are vacationing and living at the same time, which makes it a really sound investment. It makes it a great opportunity to truly live that never-ending summer. So whether you're in the beginning part of your journey, in the end, I can tell you that these hacks are always going to be tried and true, but you can't exercise them unless you have that pit crew, those realtors, those lenders, those inspectors, all of your ducks in a row. So we have all that process perfected. We figured it out. We did it ourselves. We do it all the time for other families. People have been moving down here in droves. I can tell you when the national indicators are saying it's slow. Are we slow?
No, not at all.
And there's a reason for that, because we have value. We understand that this is the biggest investment, whether it's a romanticized leap of faith or whether it's this biggest investment of your life. We treat it such. We treat it in a critical state. We care about your investment. We have a fiduciary responsibility to you. We're real estate experts. We're new construction experts, and we're here to leverage all of our expertise to get you down here to live that never-ending summer.
All right, so there's nothing left to do but to give us a call or shoot us that email or send us a text or set up that Zoom call so that you can get together with us and we can start that process and get you a little bit closer to living that Florida
dream. And remember, we mentioned it. In home buying, just like in NASCAR, if you're not first, you're last.
All right, so for This Week in Venice, Florida, I'm Caleb.
And I'm Lanier.
And we'll see you next week.